Welcome to the Caregiver Relief Podcast. I'm your host, Diane Carbo, and today we're exploring an often overlooked condition, auditory processing disorder, and other related disorders that affect how we understand sound. My guest, Linda MacDougall, is a holistic healthcare practitioner, massage therapist, counselor, and author of The Spirit Method of Massage for Seniors. Linda has decades of experience working with seniors, the disabled, and those with special needs. She brings a unique perspective on how hearing and communication challenges go far beyond hearing loss and how they impact daily life, independence, and caregiver stress. If you've ever wondered why a loved one with good hearing still struggles to follow conversations, this episode is for you. This episode is sponsored by myvitalvault.net, your all-in-one life organizer for aging adults and caregivers. It's designed to help you securely store your essential legal, medical, and emergency information in one easy-to-access place. Because when a crisis hits, being prepared can make all the difference. Join our Caregiver Relief community, a warm, welcoming space where you can connect with other caregivers, ask questions, share stories, and find support from people who truly understand. Visit community.caregiverrelief.com to join now, because caregiving is one of the hardest and most meaningful things you'll ever do, and no one should have to do it alone. And if this episode speaks to you, please take a moment to like, share, or comment. Every click helps us reach more caregivers who need encouragement, resources, and hope. Linda, once again, you're offering lots of information here today, and I know you're so busy, so thank you. Linda, what first drew your attention to auditory processing disorder and communication challenges in aging adults?
It's not ever looked at, for one thing. Yeah. But what started it is that at age 50, I was diagnosed with that.
Oh.
So all through life, I had gone through this and not understood my own issues.
Yes.
And the counselor that sent me had diagnosed me with mild ADD, and I'm imagining, knowing my youth, that I was probably ADHD. So I could never sit still without my foot going or fidgeting or whatever. But I think in older age, the H kind of dropped away and it's more just AD. Now, AD and ADHD, the AD is attention deficit, but don't let that fool you. That's not what it is. Instead of a deficit, it is just the opposite. You're consumed by your environment in a way because everything gets your attention.
So it's like overstimulation?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And with auditory processing disorder, it is not a problem with the ears, just like visual or nose or any of these senses. It's either over or under. If you have a disorder in those areas, you're either overstimulated by something or you're understimulated by something.
Oh, wow.
And attention deficit in most cases is everything in the environment gets your attention. Instead of it's a deficit, no, you have all this input coming in and it's overwhelming you in some cases.
So how does it differ from typical hearing loss? You're saying to me that you can't, hearing loss, you can't hear. Your nerve is damaged. But what you're saying, this is, yes, but what you're saying is this is the processing when something comes into when somebody speaks to you, what you're here could not be just that person, but everything around you comes in at you at one time. Wow.
I'll give you an example that came from my life that really, I knew this about myself, but apparently my husband at the time didn't get it. He was a CB in the Navy, or he is, I guess he was. He's not dead, but he's just out
Yeah.
retired.
Retired, sure. Yeah.
And he took me to an event they were having at a local restaurant.
Uh-huh.
And the restaurant itself was noisy enough, but they took us up to the second floor and there was an A-frame rafter above.
Uh-huh.
That caught all the noise from above and all the noise from up with all the
Yes.
CBs and people. And for the life of me, I could not join a conversation. I could not understand a word anybody was saying, no matter if I cupped my ears, got right in their face. It didn't matter. I could not separate the sounds.
Oh, wow.
So it was all coming at me. And I finally went to the other side of the A-frame and sat at a table away from it, a lot of the noise.
Mm.
A lot of the event was the other side of the A-frame. And then my husband came over and he got all mad. Why aren't you mingling? Why aren't you looking aloof? And I'm going, I can't understand anything. I can't join a conversation because I can't understand what they're saying.
How common is this?
I don't know how common it is. I really don't. But what did I just read? It was one to three people in every 20 people has a processing disorder of some nature.
Of some nature. Wow. Wow. So why do so many people go undiagnosed or even misdiagnosed with this?
And that's funny you should say that, because sometimes auditory processing disorder is, or maybe I should say sensory processing disorders, are mixed with autism. So you never know if they're misdiagnosed as one or the other.
Okay. It's funny because I have seniors or people that in their 40s that are just now being diagnosed with being on the spectrum in some way. And that was surprising to me. But when I hear about what you're saying, it makes sense. They function at different levels, and some are socially inept, and it's because of all the stimuli. So I'm finding this very fascinating because I think that there's a lot of stuff that we still don't know about our brain and how we process things to the degree that we do. I know I just don't like going into a busy room, too much noise.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can still talk and understand, but I don't like it. I don't like the noise. But I've always been like that too, where you go to concerts, you wear earplugs because I don't want to hear what they're doing and I can't, it just is uncomfortable to me. So there are different types of sensory overloads that can happen, or like you say, they can be underwhelmed as well.
Yes.
So how does the auditory processing disorder affect seniors in terms of independence, mental health, and social connections?
As you can imagine, they're not going to want to be in noisy environments because of all the stimulation. So I find myself much more comfortable on one-to-one or very small group. But events, not as comfortable. I can go.
Yeah.
Depending on how, like that A-frame just didn't do me any favors at all with all the noise from the whole place accumulating right there and just driving me crazy. But in most events, they can be outdoor or wherever. I can at least hear people talk and can join in. I may not be comfortable, but I can do that. But I'm much more comfortable in small group settings.
Yeah.
So it's not that I can't be social.
Yes.
It's that it's better in small settings.
I can see people misconstruing that as, like your husband had said, you were aloof or you were uninterested in others. And it's really sad because, and I wonder if sometimes we're seeing people that appear to be shy and it's strictly an auditory or a sensory overload of some sort that keeps them from interacting with others in a group setting anyway.
Yeah, I think that's fairly common. And you have to realize that a lot of us who were around our ages were never diagnosed.
Yes.
Never.
Yeah. When I hear
Time to
people
go.
my age, and I'm 72, saying they are diagnosed with ADHD or ADD or whatever, I'm like, wow, how did we get to be this old and not know these things?
Because they didn't have the science in those days.
Yes. And it's the same with dyslexia. People can go their whole lives without being diagnosed with dyslexia and not offered the support that they need to overcome that issue. And it's ironic because some people with dyslexia are brilliant, but they process things, they don't see the words right or whatever. And they are viewed as of lower intelligence sometimes. And it's really sad. And it's because they haven't, and many of them, oh my God, we have actors out there that are famous that have dyslexia. They've overcome their disability by I don't know how, acting, man. It amazes me. How do you learn? You must learn to listen versus read.
Yes, I
I'm
would
a
think so.
Yeah, there's different ways to learn to read. Like some people have to hear, some people have to see, and some people have to physically do something over and over again to get it right. And I know with me, I like to see and hear to learn and then do. The nursing process is see one, teach one, do one, or do one and teach one. I can see how it would cover all the bases as far as the overload. But in crowds, I just don't like crowds. I've never liked crowds. I don't like the noise. And I come from a big Irish family. Lots of family gatherings where it gets to a low roar in the house when you're together. So, what unique challenge does this present to family caregivers who are trying to communicate with their loved ones?
Well, often, since it does go undiagnosed, all of these disorders can be undiagnosed in seniors currently.
Yeah.
So they don't know what's going on. They think also, just like my husband did, that they're being stubborn, they're being whatever. And that causes frustration on both sides, which
Yes.
disturbs the whole sense of caregiving. And
Yes.
it's any of the sensory disorders can provide problems if they don't recognize what they are and know how to deal with them, or get an occupational therapist, even at old age, in to help them deal with the problem on both sides.
Okay. Now, are there links between APD and cognitive decline, dementia, or other brain health issues?
You will find a lot of sensory disorders in dementia,
Yes.
and that may be acquired later. I'm not sure.
Yes.
But because aging causes deterioration in various senses and in the brain too, until we get probably our kids or their kids into senior living, that's the time you'll know when somebody has a problem, because they would have been diagnosed so much younger.
Yes, yes, yes.
With me and people like me, they don't get diagnosed at all, or they get diagnosed very late in life.
How do you go about getting diagnosed? How were you diagnosed?
I was seeing a marriage, family, child counselor at the time for other totally unrelated issues.
Sure.
And she diagnosed me with ADD. And then she said, I want you to go to Ventura College and get some more testing. I said, okay, I have no problem with that. So it was a very long test. I don't remember the name of it, but it was like 3 or 4 hours each day for 2 days. So it was a very long test. And most of it I knew I was doing pretty well on. But then they had this section where they did small paragraphs, and the paragraphs got longer and longer. And then I'd be asked what I remembered. And with 2-sentence paragraphs, I could tell you what was there. Longer they got, it was either the beginning or the end. The middle was gone. And that's the guy who scored it, or who was telling me the scores anyway, came up to me and he says, the good news is you're in the 95th percentile. The bad news is not here.
Oh,
So then they put me in a special ed class at 50, just
uh,
which
you
I thought
know,
was hysterical.
what I find fascinating about this is we are a culture right now in this, that does not read much. People aren't reading like they used to. They want to listen to podcasts and books versus read them. For me, I can't sit and read a book for very long, not because I'm not, because of pain between my neck and my shoulders and my wrists. I can't hold a book and read. So I do lots of research online, sitting online, and can read. But what I'm learning, because with my site, is people just, because there's so much information out there thrown at them. And I personally, in fact, my son, who he was a Korean linguist, and he learned things very easily. He didn't have to work hard. It just came to him. When he developed chronic pain condition, he said for the first time in his life, he had to read things more than once to understand it. So there are issues like that that get involved, that interfere with people in their lives in understanding things. And I think that one of the things, especially with dementia, that I see is they do have a processing disorder. And anybody who has aphasia, whether it's receptive aphasia, they don't understand what's said to them, or expressive aphasia, where they're unable to say what they mean. That's a processing disorder as well, I would assume. So there are a lot of different processing or
Yes.
sensory processing disorders out there. So that fascinates me. So are there interventions or strategies that somebody can use to help manage these communications better daily?
Again, getting a knowledgeable OT, occupational therapist, in to deal with the person or with the person and their environmental helpers. Everybody understands what's going on, I think would help a lot, because there are coping methods. And by the time you're my age, you've figured out how to cope. You either stay away from large crowds or
Yeah.
whatever, and you don't put yourself in those situations. I walk my dogs every day, 3 times a day, and that's my socialization. My little one in my lap loves people, loves dogs, so she wants to stop for every being that crosses our path. And she wants to be petted. She wants to be told she's cute. And
She's a little diva.
she is a little diva. And
Yeah.
it is just hysterical to watch her, but she will stop us at anything that comes our way practically, because she wants to wait for that person to come and say hi to her, or she wants to see what that dog is all about.
I've been in many homes doing home care or evaluations, and there are homes that I go into that are very loud and noisy, and the TV's blaring, the kids have stereo on upstairs, and everybody's okay with that. And except that sometimes it's the patient that I'm seeing is they're having a hard time. And I didn't know about the auditory processing disorder. And I'm wondering sometimes because the first thing I do is when I go into a home is ask that the TV turned off, the radio turned off, so we could have a quiet conversation. But there are people that don't like quiet.
Yeah.
They just don't like quiet. I know people that have to have the TV on to sleep. But I'm like, "Oh, no, quiet's good." And then there's homes I go into where it's just quiet and there's no noise. You can hear the wall clock tick, tick, and that's it. And they don't like to be around a lot of people. A lot of these individuals, they don't like, and I'm wondering now if it was an undiagnosed auditory processing disorder or a sensory processing disorder of some sort, where they just can't have a lot of noise and distractions when they're having a conversation. That's very interesting, because I know we don't talk about this in nursing. And if I'm wrong, I'd like somebody to tell me what I missed, because I've never now with dementia, I know what to do. When I tell the families, you got to keep the TV off. You got to have positive, calming music. Maybe the lights need to be dimmed a little bit, or if you want them to wake up, let's be brighter. Those types of things. But I find this very fascinating. Very fascinating that. And really, hearing aids or other devices, is there anything that a device they could use, or they really do fall short of what a person needs? Because, like with hearing aids, nothing makes me crazier than when people spend thousands of dollars on these hearing aids to help them hear and they don't wear them. And people don't understand when they don't wear them that the hearing part of their brain starts to atrophy or shrivel up, and it does make you more prone to dementia. So when they're trying not to hear, and then of course there's always the little old lady or little old man who shuts their hearing aid off because they don't want to hear their spouse or the grandkids, the noise of the grandkids. I find that very interesting. So if you come across somebody like a family caregiver out there, this is something new to them. It's definitely something new to me as far as in dementia. I've dealt with this before. I've seen it, even with stroke victims, I've seen it. But to just see an average person like you or me that has no outward signs, or we're not having hearing issues, I can see how it can go undiagnosed. So my question to you is, what kind of signs and symptoms are what should people look out for so that maybe they can get it addressed?
Well, for me, I know it's loud noises, even if I'm right on a major street out here.
Uh-huh.
If I'm walking the dogs and some motorcycle decides to go 900 miles an hour down the street and it just now do this or want to do this. If I have the dogs with me, I may not be able to do that.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just, you will see them have an extreme sensitivity. It will be obvious in loud noise places like it was to me when I was in that restaurant. It's any place like that will do it to me if it's concentrated noise, and it was all caught under that A-frame. In instances, I can do this and
Squint and try to listen. Yeah, read lips.
yeah, I've tried that too. It doesn't work, at least not for me.
Yeah, we have 3 biker weeks here in Myrtle Beach, and the noise level during those weeks in the summer are horrendously high. Between the bikes making all these wild, loud noises and the traffic, there's also lots of fireworks during those times, and I see people reacting to it, and now I know why. I don't like a loud noise will scare me, but it doesn't make me I'm able to tolerate it. But that's interesting.
So you have to be honed in on that person and not assume that everything is what you think it is.
That's a good point, Linda. If you have somebody who is responding to you and talking, or they want to, or if they withdraw, it's really a good thing to change the environment, quiet it down a little bit, make that one-on-one. I always tell my family members with somebody with dementia to sit in front of them and look at them when you're interacting with them. Never talk to them from behind, and never approach them from behind. Make sure you walk around and look at them because you don't know. Don't touch them before you see them, because they could haul off and sock you one and knock you over. It just by reaction, it's a startle response. And with dementia, it can be very real. It's the same with stroke patients. There's things you should be aware of. So this auditory processing disorder is very interesting to me, or even the sensory one. I get the loud noises. Get the bright lights is also difficult.
Oh, yes.
That's
very tough for me too.
That's a really tough one for a lot of people. And I didn't know it was a process. I was just ignorant. I didn't know it was a processing disorder.
Most people don't.
Yes.
You were saying come around, don't touch them from behind. They're tactile disorders, and they can go from one thing or another. It can be extreme to the point that they're touching you all the time because they're there's something that they're not getting in their information, so they're touching to get it.
Yeah.
But if you come up behind them and touch them, they might just go into overwhelm.
Yes, and become very overwhelmed. I have actually witnessed that many occasions in my nursing career. Now, you've worked with a wide range of populations, seniors, the disabled, the mentally ill. How do communication disorders like APD show up across these groups? I think any of these processing disorders come across these groups in so many different ways.
Yeah, I mean, I worked with the developmentally disabled for decades, and I guess I shouldn't say all, but the vast majority of them have some processing disorders, because you're going to get those that either have to touch you, or I had one that would look at the sun and do this. And it was
tap with head or whatever. Yeah.
And there's just so many things that go on with developmentally disabled. And that's another whole thing where the brain isn't processing.
Yeah.
And so therefore you're getting weird responses. I've been attacked by them when I've tried to round them up from getting away from Camarillo State Hospital when it was a state hospital and not a college. I've done
behavioral health as well, and it can be challenging. But I think the point here of this podcast is there are sensory processing disorders that go undiagnosed in many of us, whether it be an auditory processing disorder where we can't communicate with others because of the noise or the distractions, or if it's too quiet, that's another way somebody may not be able to communicate well because they're underwhelmed. And then there's sensory ones. So I think that's just being aware of the person that we're dealing with, our loved one, and figuring out the approach to them, or noticing, just being aware of noticing them, because people get agitated or aggravated or withdrawn depending on whatever their response is to a loud noise or lots of noise or bright lights. I know in the movies theaters now, when they have strobe lighting, they'll tell you this may cause seizures. And we just need as human beings to be aware and of what is happening with our loved one. And that's very interesting to me, because I see it with dementia, but I didn't see it. And this might explain some of the reasons why some of the seniors that we are dealing with are withdrawn, but they have good hearing. I didn't realize that. It's got to be hard for some of them that are in the nursing homes. They're the ones that want to be in their room all the time because they don't like the noise outside in the hallways and stuff.
Yeah, it's noise in the hallways, but one of the ladies I was dealing with in a nursing home prior to COVID, she had a stroke and I was working on her. Unfortunately, it was only once a week and half an hour, which was never enough to do much. It was like Groundhog Day with massage.
Yes,
yes. Get her to unwind her arm, and then it would be wound up again next time. Yeah. Because when you do massage on stroke victims, you need to do it on a very regular schedule.
Basis, yes.
But there's so many things. Like when I was an advocate for the state of Hawaii, they sent me to a group home for the developmentally disabled, and I forgot what my assignment was supposed to be. But I went there, and the staff were complaining about this older client. She was probably in her late 50s, and she would keep undressing.
Yep.
And being very frustrated and taking off her blouse all the time. And I had two thoughts right away. I said, have you cut out her tag? It's in the clothing, because that can drive me crazy sometimes. It's not often, but every once in a while I get a tag that just, oh God. But there's the tags. And then the other thing was how clear and clean is your laundry detergent, because she may be reacting to something in the laundry detergent stays in the clothes. And I unfortunately never got to see what the result of that encounter was, but we tried she also had trouble sleeping, so I told him to diffuse some lavender in the room.
Yep.
Help her sleep if that would help. You never know what will work with somebody, but you try
With
different
somebody.
things.
Exactly. I know from my experience, sometimes people that undress are people that the clothes are too tight, or they don't feel right, or they bother them in some way,
Yes.
and you just have to find a solution. Or others, maybe it's just that you need to keep their hands busy, and like the fidget clothing or aprons where they have things that they can feel. They need to be, these types of individuals need to be stimulated in
Yes.
some way. And it's a guessing game for the family. Linda, how do people reach you? And if they have any questions in regards to the auditory processing, but you do so many other things, tell people how they can find you.
My website, although it is not updated presently, is loveyourlongevity.com.
Oh, I love that.
And I try to help people stay younger longer.
Yes, of course. Yes, absolutely.
But anyway, you could do that, or I am at arthritiscoach.com, or at gmail.com. So you can get me there.
I'll put all of these.
Yeah.
I'll put them on. They're on all the pages that with every podcast we do. I put that on, and then you've written a book about the seniors, and I also include that book because massage for seniors is so important.
I'm on LinkedIn. I don't really use my Facebook much anymore. That one it was too much garbage.
Yeah.
I stick pretty much to LinkedIn now. I had started a group on Facebook, but the group never seemed to want to participate. So I just said, heck with it.
And you know what? I think there's a lot of those issues right now on Facebook. There's so many groups that people get distracted and don't know which ones they've joined. And it's because I'm finding that as well. But thank you for your time today and bringing up about auditory processing disorder. I appreciate you.
This is an excellent source if you want to learn about all the weird things that kids in school go through. And this guy, it's called, my voice is going, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's called Fat City, and fat is for frustration, anxiety, and tension. And he's talking about kids, but it applies to adults as well. And what is fascinating about this is that he makes them all think that they have the disability.
Oh.
And so 2 minutes in, he goes, see, you've been learning disabled for 2 minutes and look what you're already doing.
So what's the name of it? I can't see it. This is audio. I don't use the video.
How difficult can this be? The Fat City Workshop. And it's presented by Richard D. Lavoie. Now, this is an oldie. This was made.
I'll look it up and put a link on the site.
But it is great.
Okay.
I watched it again yesterday to prepare for this because he makes all these adults in the room feel just like the learning disabled.
Okay.
With his different things. And it's fascinating because he goes through all the learning problems and everything. So
I'll put a link to that on the page as well. To my family caregivers out there, you are the most important part of the caregiving equation. Without you, it all falls apart. So please learn to be gentle with yourself. Practice self-care every day because you are worth it.